Open University.
Resonance. Resonance, it's what musical instruments do, they resonate. And it's also what artists do in culture, they resonate through the culture, sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes their notes fall with a dead sound, like
tears in rain.
Like bricks falling onto rubber, and are not carried further. The ripples die before the pond, metaphors. Resonance, I'm not quite sure about whether I want to resonate, whether I can resonate, first of all, whether I like it when I do resonate. I mean, over the weekend I posted this song which was called Fuck This Year. Fuck This Year. To various social media platforms, and it resonated. I was complaining in the last Open University about the glass ceiling not being able to get more than 1,000 views. Well, this has already got, it's approaching 3,000 views and not showing any evidence of stopping, so it might well burst through, 10,000. I think back in the days when I was on Creation Records, I sold about 10,000 records of albums like Don't Stop the Night, Tender Pervert. And that was nice because when you're young, you do want to resonate and you do want to be famous and you think that's what it's all about. And I think I gave up really after the relative failure of the hairstyle of the Devil single, which was in 1989. It got to, number 2 in the indie charts. And there was just a lot of hassle having to try and organize press, for it, trying to get the tabloid newspapers interested. I think what you realize as you approach fame is that it involves getting respect from bozos and idiots. People you don't respect are supposed to respect you. I'm the kind of person who actually, although I was saying satirically that I didn't want my views to go above, that I wasn't happy with having views below 1,000, I'm actually suspicious of anything that gets more than 1,000 views because I don't think there are more than 1,000 truly tuned in and intelligent people in this world. I don't believe that, even if Lady Gaga is sort of a really arty, intelligent, hipstery person, there are actually, it happens more in pop music, mainstream pop music. I think there are some quite arty, intelligent, interesting people making that. I can't name any names at the moment because I don't really follow it. I just listen to my Japanese folk records. But actually, I'll play you a little snatch of the record that I turned into Fuck This Year. This is quite interesting, the transformation. So that's what I turned into Fuck This Year, and it's actually playing at the wrong speed, but I used it at that slower speed. To me, what I liked about that was the very emphatic triple beat characteristic, ondo triple beat, boom, 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 and the cellos. There are actually some low cellos there which are doing the dum, 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 dum. It's a bit like T-Rex. I mean, my first love when I was a teeny bopper in the early 70s was T-Rex. The first album I bought was a T-Rex compilation, Ride a White Swan. And actually a lot of T-Rexes, it's also mono, it's not counterpoint, it's just a bass line basically being repeated by the strings on top, by the guitars and the bass, everything doing that. So in that record there, it's like they're all doing... They're doing that basic pattern, and that's actually very like a lot of Asian music is like that. There is no chord changes; it's all in this same chord, and so Indian music or Middle Eastern music often uses that kind of thing. I do add some chord changes because I then bring in a bass, synth bass, which sort of then ironizes, that sort of effect of dramatic irony, puts some of those, puts that note into a dramatic relationship of counterpoint with the bass line, basically. And makes a little more structure and suspense as you go back into it really just leads you back into that original note and riff. And I wanted this to have a mechanical sort of steam hammer repetition. Fuck this year, to just keep coming back to that riff. It has resonated, and I think one of the good things I can say, I mean, I believe all these people like David Bowie saying the only good thing about being famous is being able to get a table in a restaurant. He's got there's a great live version of Fame, his song Fame, where he sort of, there's a call and response thing at the end. Fame, stick it. It's like, stick it. And then it just ends on that stick it, stick it up your arse. And, Jarvis Cocker, people who came up through Britpop, I could have potentially come, being active at the end of the 80s, there was this surgent Britpop movement. And so people, even Lawrence Felt had a brief second career in a band called Denim. So what I was going to say was that one of the nice things about this awful year we've been through is that it has brought together the schismatic left, all the people who are even vaguely left, even vaguely liberal. The liberal and the left can once more be friends. We're all united by our opposition, a common opposition to this appalling white trash racism which has come up through the populist demagoguery of the Le Pens, the Trumps, the Farages, and which is setting the political agenda. One of the interesting things about resonating with this song I put up on the weekend was that for once I'm actually getting some right-wingers. The echo chamber, the walls of the echo chamber have been burst. People have been leaving comments, a couple of comments which were distinctly fascist, racist, alt-right comments. One of them said, you're a libtard. You're coming across like a parody of a libtard, and we don't want to be that, do we? And so I had this battle with this person who was called something like Samantha Lemon. And then somebody else was saying, somebody called Bernie Sanders was saying, well, just you wait, 2017 is going to be even worse, and we're going to round up you libtards. Didn't use the word libtards, but you're all going to be rounded up by President Trump and executed, whatever. Come the revolution. My response to those people is simply that first of all, working class people are being misled by these oligarchs who are supposedly in league with them. Those people will betray you, are already betraying you, Trump is chumming up with the Mexicans already, having dinner with billionaire oligarchs in Mexico as well. But also that it's very obvious that what the right is doing just now is simply adopting the rhetoric that the left invented 25 years ago, a quarter century ago. We on the left, I exempt myself because I'm more of a Frankfurt School Euro-communist type, but people on the left in American universities, not wanting to fight the real class-based political battles, went off into this policing language, political correctness, identity politics thing of, the special snowflake thing, which is now quite rightly attacked by the right. Everybody became special snowflakes on the campus, and this was a terrible distraction, but also it was providing political ammunition to the right, because by the turn of the century, there were people. There was a guy called David Horowitz who, in about 2005, was campaigning for a so-called academic freedom of speech, pluralism within the university, and what that meant was the right for there to be anti-evolution views preached, or Christian views preached within the campus, which previously had been simply excluded as non-factual, disproven, or minoritarian, wacky, irrational views. Put them all in a lovely rainbow spectrum of beliefs which actually delegitimizes the the true things, or the things, so, but also this idea of post-truth politics, which goes back to 1980s postmodern relativism, saying that, okay, nothing is particularly true, language is not, not foundational in the sense that, it's simply whatever, all that deconstruction of positivism came at a price, which was that anybody can then step in. But also the cultural battles. In the 80s, a lot of people were saying, it's not that we are right or wrong, we are a culture which you must respect as part of pluralism and also globalization. Everybody must respect everybody else's culture. These cultural arguments are now being appropriated by the racist white right-wingers and saying that we are the victim minority group. There's a Stuart Lee sketch in which he's talking to a taxi driver who says, now, just for being a white Englishman, you can be put in prison. You can be put in prison just for being and so he keeps, Stuart Lee then repeats this back to him, really, you can go to jail just for being white. And this, it's kind of a ridiculous thing that people say now. I am, as a white person, I am a victim, I'm a minority, as a white male, blah, 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 white working class male. Of course, those people are often, in a sense, victims, but they're victims, there's a comradeship with a lot of immigrant people in the same precarian underclass, who they should ally themselves with in a much more Marxist way. If socialism had not been demonized constantly throughout the education process, cultural processes, the media. But of course, it's divide and rule. It's basically divide and rule. The oligarchs are saying, hey, you might be a victim, but you're white, or you're a man. And those are pretty great things, and never lose your pride in those things. And anyway, this is all going to come unstuck pretty quickly because, first of all, it's just really ancient, discarded left-wing ideology which the right has reappropriated, and secondly, the oligarchs are going to betray at every single turn anybody who's a loser, a victim, an economic precarian. So. But anyway, what was I saying? Yes, so we have these people coming in, leaving right-wing comments under my videos, which never happens. And I kind of, my first reaction is, God, where do these people come from? Okay, I read about these people in the news headlines, but I don't expect them to come and comment under Momus videos. So I was quite comfortable in my little niche with my less than 1,000 views, And if resonating, if the price I have to pay for that is having to deal with people I consider, bozos and fascists, then leave me out of it. I'm quite happy in my little bubble here.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
I will say, though, that there are definite advantages. What I will say is that obscurity and marginality, this thing I've defined as the continuous failure being redefined, parlayed up into a kind of success, in other words, survival being a kind of success. There are problems with that, which is that the capitalist system does not it doesn't really encourage any kind of longevity or stability. Things are either blowing up or they're blowing down. You tend to have, I was watching a Seth Price video, really long, quite boring, but also quite interesting video, in which he reads from a novel he wrote, which sort of lays out the roles of the art system, the art world as he saw them. And he's basically saying that, gosh, there's a peg missing from my violin. How weird, I wonder where it is.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Yeah, even Seth Price, who's sort of a hot artist, maybe 5 years ago, was saying that you only get about 5 years worth of attention. And then people get bored of you, which is very much my experience as well. Certain groups of people, like UK journalists, for instance, I have a very definite 5-year span of interest from them. And then I moved on to, working in the Japanese market, working in America. But in each case, in each territory, people will initially hail your genius and then get bored of you very quickly. So, and I think it's not. I used to think it was something to do with me being, annoying or clever or something like that. But actually, it's simply that's the way the system works. Unless you're Oasis, for some reason, nobody ever got bored with Oasis. And I think the case of Oasis was very interesting because they came along as a stereotype of white working class males. In fact, very much the kind of people who are now powering the alt-right revolution. People who are, white trash of Irish stock, sort of immigrants who are then making an anti-immigrant stance. I mean, I do remember them saying things about rap shouldn't be headlining Glastonbury because that's not our British music. Oasis never went away because they seemed to be the epitome of this working class culture which British journalists were celebrating from about 1990, from the Britpop thing. And actually, all the waving of flags, Union Jacks, which the journalists at the NME were attacking Morrissey for and saying that he was a fascist for, they all adopted themselves very shortly afterwards and baptized this new 90s rock Britpop. It mostly meant white guitar bands, even if occasionally, like the Happy Mondays, that was Manchester, but it was sort of allied with Britpop. It sort of drew on some black sources, but the rest of us went off and either did trip hop or got involved in the globalization thing, which was that we were all listening to world music, and I was listening to a lot of French records, Serge Gainsbourg and stuff like that. So there was, and I went off and worked in Japan. I actually used globalization to go off and work in Japan. I'm much more happy with just parachuting into certain markets at certain times, because I have no faith in Britain, especially dealing with someone like me who's both a liberal and bourgeois and articulate. Those three things, you can't say both. But yeah, all those things were embarrassing. Someone like John Peel came from very much the same social background as me, a bourgeois guy who'd been privately educated, but who was deeply ashamed of that, as I have been to some extent. It's certainly embarrassing in my particular profession. So, I'm quite happy to be an elitist of sorts, but a Marxist elitist. I mean, guilt is essential to my worldview, and I do feel guilty. I'm a champagne socialist in that sense, or a lovey, sort of all those actors who sort of do benefits and galas and charities and things like that. I'm essentially one of those people, and my whole politics is about raising up poor people to have as much as possible of the freedom and the options that I have. But as I was saying something about capitalism not being able to have a sustainability, longevity, all those things, you're basically either... So I think the only good thing I could say about being famous, or the possibility of being famous, is that I would have more opportunities to do other things, to do interesting things. If I look at Jarvis Cocker's career, presenting TV programs about folk music, being an editor on the board with Faber and Faber, being able to commission things, I'm slightly envious of those things, but I didn't find that his folk TV show particularly compelling, and I also haven't seen any books he's commissioned with Faber yet. I mean, perhaps he has put some of his mates in there, and perhaps they'd put some good books out, I don't know, but I think those are essentially distractions, and perhaps they would have been ego boosting, I don't know. It's kind of the same with books. I mean, it's great that I've had a chance to publish books, but the books have had the same kind of glass ceiling on them as the music, that they tend to have sales of 1,000 or whatever it is, 2,000, and not go beyond that. So they stay in the particular little enclave that I've always been in. In fact, whatever I do, my art shows, they've also stayed in this little enclave. They've never resonated, and generally I'm actually quite happy with that. What I like is the fact that I was able to have an art career of about 10 years, to write books. Again, maybe that was a 10-year thing, maybe there won't be more books, I don't know. So I had just enough success to but I almost feel sorry for my publishers or my record labels or whatever, because each time you go in there with this capitalist momentum of saying, well, he might be big, Alan McGee obviously at some point thought I might be big, wouldn't have signed me otherwise, and each time they're going to be disappointed, because you probably, if you have any insight not only into yourself but into the people, the great mass, what makes things popular, you can see that you're not going to make it. And they won't lose money because you record cheaply, but they won't make money either. And of course, you can't just simmer along. You probably will at some point fall out of favour if you're not making them a lot of money. It's all about the moolah, the green stuff.
Open University.